Well, good morning, Liberal Kansas, Southwest Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and all other places where you tune in to get your news and views from the middle of America. This is Roll the Leader in Times on Monday, November 10th, 2025. Jim Rice is out today, but we have newly re-elected City Commissioner Jeff Parsons here, so we'll start off by congratulating you, the top vote getter twice in a row.
Thank you very much.
How about that?
I think it's great, yeah.
You'll take it every time.
I will take it, yeah. No, I'm super appreciative of people who have that kind of confidence. Of course, you know, there were only three of us to choose from, so.
But even in three,
yep.
There's, you know, you still have a finish order.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So top vote getter actually had your name on the ballot, signs out.
Yeah, few. I didn't put very many out, but I put a few out.
Yeah, I just saw a few. And you know, you live on 15th. That's kind of a thoroughfare for signs.
Right.
And with your guys' race really not having to be challenged, you know, I mean, why did you still feel it was important to put out signs?
You know, I think you have to, you know, if you're gonna want the office, you ought to at least put some effort into it. I know there were only three of us for 3 seats, but I felt like I needed to make at least some sort of effort to do it. So, you know, I got the checkbook out and bought a few signs. It turns out that I had this surgery before I could get them all out. So so there's still a bunch of them in a box in my garage that I never took out of the box. So
you couldn't just take your old one and cross out the right end and just
I should have.
Well,
I threw all those away.
Oh, you did. Well, so you know when you ran last time, 4 years, you said, you know, here's some things you'd like to do. So what do you look as you're running for re-election?
Yeah.
You know, continue that look forward. What are you looking at?
You know, there's some things that we need to do. You know, we and we're going to start actually tonight at a commission meeting. We've got, or not tomorrow night, not tonight. We're going to redo some of the codes, but you know, we got this new comprehensive plan which gives us a roadmap, and so you know, I think the first thing we ought to do is we need to get that map out and you know, see what we can start doing to follow it. I know the staff's already looking at doing some doing some sidewalk work in places around town. That's one of the things that turned up in the comprehensive plan that the folks wanted, and so we're going to start taking a look at that. But there's other issues. You know, we have issues at Adventure Bay, and so we're going to continue to look at that. You know, economic development for me, you know, it's kind of a natural emphasis area. Haven't done that job for as long as I did, and that's never going to change. So for me, economic development will always be an emphasis. So, and you know, just good governance. You know, we want to make sure that we're doing it right. We're listening to the folks and doing what they would like, and so. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty to get done, that's for sure.
Well, in a way, kind of hitting the ground running, because we had Eli on here a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about this Taiwan opportunity with drones, and I think that, you know, he was talking about a container of equipment already headed this way.
Yep.
That makes you feel pretty good when they're
on the ocean as we speak, headed this direction.
How about that? Yeah. And you know, I think you're talking about up north on the other side of the old Trembleville building,
right?
And that's kind of where you're thinking.
Well, no, I mean they've purchased a building.
Existing building.
Yes.
Okay.
That they're going to go in, but you know, hopefully, if we can convince some of those other companies that that they work with to come, they're going to need places, and so that up there is kind of what we're looking at. But they've already got a place to land when they get here. So.
All right.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean. That I didn't get a chance to see. I saw him at the ball game last night, but I didn't get to go over and talk with him. But you know, the guy's looking at bringing in Dairy Queen, you know, and that project's still moving, and you've got this industrial, and I got to say, I don't know if you remember Audie Bartel.
Oh yeah.
But Audie and I, you know, we would talk about. He was on economic development back then. It was called JEDC, and we talked a lot about economic development over the years, and I say he kind of convinced me, and I finally bought into the idea that industrial is really the key, because if you can bring in those industrial jobs, those people need to eat somewhere. They need to shop somewhere.
Sure.
And so retail kind of will follow those jobs. Not that retail is its own leg of the stool. You could still grow retail, but I mean,
Yeah.
industrial is really a key, isn't it?
And he's right. Yeah, it is. But you can't sleep on anything. I mean, you have to recruit all parts of economic development because, they do not naturally land in rural areas, and so you've got to work at it. Hammer and tong the whole. You get. We had a whole bunch of manufacturing that we were able to line up. Where you're still going to have to go out and hunt down retail.
Yeah.
So you can't really stop doing any of it.
Right.
That's been my experience over the years is that, I mean, you might put your emphasis on industrial and manufacturing, but you can never stop recruiting retail.
Yeah, and you guys just recently opened up the new workout area up by the Adventure Bay, and it's got that nice little canopy. You can see it now, how that works. That's kind of what I thought it would be. Those things aren't solid because you got to let wind move, but they shade. They give you, 60, 70%.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's probably about right.
But they keep the sun from just beating on you.
Right.
And so, and that was different kind of equipment than what I was thinking. I remember the equipment you used to have on the other side of the batting cages. If you remember, you had some free weight moving stuff there.
Yeah.
They were kind of like your own weight, and you
Right.
kick that, and it kind of lifts you and does this scissor thing. This stuff looks, a little bit to the next level, but still industrial strength. It won't get beat up or torn up out there, and so it looks like that'll be a nice addition. Plus, it's right by the sidewalk where a lot of people are walking.
Yeah, and that's it was purposely put there. We had an old playground there. And the playground. I mean, I took my kids and my grandkids to that that little play area there, and it was just getting old and rusty, and it just needed to go. So we had this place out there with nothing there. We took the equipment out and got rid of it because it wasn't safe, and so we had this area. So it was a natural. People are used to seeing it because a lot of people walk past there. You go by this morning and there'll be people walking past it. So it's a good place for people to stop, and if they want to exercise a little extra, it's perfect.
Yeah, and it's not like Light Park doesn't have playground equipment. They have plenty of playground equipment over in the main concourse of the park, and so now you just add a new feature over there.
Yeah.
And so that's a nice addition.
Yeah, paid for out of 1 cent sales tax. That's that's what that fund does, amongst other things. But that's one of the things that fund does.
It does, and I was driving after dark and on between 15th and 11th, and look over and the liberal sign, the mural, still looking good
Looks
after
good,
dark,
yep.
and that's just, it's well lit, and I think is that solar?
I want to say yes, but if I said yes, I'd be lying.
I'm just going to drop something real quick because this happened to us. You might see this if you get your electric bill. There's a line on there that you're probably not going to like, but it's talking about an increase because of the new tax rates, and they have to somehow cover that because their property is taxed too. So just throw that in there while you're talking about. I mentioned solar, but I think those lights are solar on that sign, and
I think you're right.
And then they come on and it illuminates. The colors look good at night, and that gives a little life right there to the park. Now, I know you guys are looking at some issues with Adventure Bay as far as the deep pools and stuff like that, and the pumps. Do we know yet, like next summer? Do some things have to happen before next summer, or where are we at?
If we're going to open it, then we're going to have to do some work before it can open. Some of that stuff's in very bad shape, and there's been some concrete shift that makes those areas not safe, so we're going to have to do some concrete work. The pumps are in bad shape, and we're looking at anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million plus just to get it ready to open. Unfortunately, it's in the bad, and part of that money would just be normal maintenance. It needs to be painted. And so, but you're looking at painting something that big. You paint the deck, you paint the pools, you paint the you paint the building, and it just that's going to be expensive. And so, part of it's just routine kind of maintenance things. But there's some other things that are issues that are going to cause us to go in and do some deep repairs. And so, the thinking is okay. Well, you're going to spend $1 million repairing it, just getting it ready to open. why not take that $1 million and put it towards something better?
Right.
And so that's kind of where we're at now. We want to find out what that something better is going to cost and what it's going to look like. We had a work session about it 2 weeks ago, and so we've got a company that's going to look at what that's going to be, and it's a reputable company who's done water parks all around the region. So
Now, is that talk just city looking at what to do on that footprint, or is that talk with the other entities on a bigger
no,
plan?
this would just be Adventure Bay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because what we're talking about with the other entities is something different.
Yeah, that's to meet more needs than just the recreation in the summertime.
Right.
Right. That's
Yep.
to meet high school needs, to meet college needs.
Yeah.
Something that.
Yeah, that's going to be something that'll be indoors, that can be used around the calendar, and Adventure Bay never will be that. So
It's hard to put a dome on that at this
Yeah.
point. That would be
Yeah.
tough to do. And
Yeah.
but it could still be very proactive space for the Light Park area. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
You've
Yeah,
already
yeah.
got a splash pad over at.
Yeah, well, we're
backyard.
talking about, it's one of the things that came up in the work session is, we probably ought to put a splash pad there that can be accessed from both inside the park, but when the park's closed, you close a gate, you lock it, and then you open it to the public through Light Park. So it can be used, that would get used for a longer period of time than just Adventure Bay would. So we would go, typically we close Adventure Bay Labor Day-ish, somewhere in there. When all the college kids, the lifeguards are college kids, they go back to school, gets hard to staff it, so that's usually when we close it. So mid to late August. Well, it's still warm into maybe in October. And so you want people to be able to use that. So that's one of the things we talked about. But we had this company give us a guesstimate on what it might cost, but taking down a couple of those slides, putting in a lazy river, which has always kind of been something that the community wanted, putting in one of those surf things, where the water comes at
Wave
you real
machine.
fast. Yeah, wave machine. So anyway, we're gonna take a look, see what it looks at. If we do something like that, I just don't see how we'll be able to open the park and get all of that done. So there's a lot of decisions to be made, and we just don't have the information yet. So
Sure. And I think in the last couple of years, we had some work done on those slides, because, and I'll say when I was a few years, it's been a few years, but I did go with the girls when they were younger, and I love the slides.
Yeah.
And, but I was a little thinner back then too, so that makes a difference. But
Right, yeah.
I get up on my shoulder blades when I'm going down to speed up. The less of me touching, the faster you go.
Right.
But those gaps between those things are united together,
Yep.
and one was just a little up, and Heather said, "You're bleeding," and I just had shaved a little
Oh.
piece off going down those things like that. I said, "Okay, no more going down like that."
Right.
But fun.
yeah,
you know.
we had to refinish those a few years back, and that stuff you can't just put it up and leave it. You got to maintain it,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and so.
And it's got water running on it all the time.
Yeah.
Those things.
Yeah, and the UV on those things is just horrible.
Oh, yeah, I can't imagine. I was wondering if there is some other plan, combined plan, so that we get the right size of pool for competition, other things. I don't know if those pools could be relocated, or not pools, but slides.
Yeah, I don't know. It would kind of depend. I don't know that they're that stage yet.
They came in pieces. They go back in
Well,
pieces.
no, that's true. I just don't know if they're if they would be too big for
I don't know,
for
yeah.
something like that. I don't know that they're that stage yet. I know that they're at this point in time, staffs are talking amongst themselves and trying to get a plan put together and.
I look at the indoor college pool that we have now, and that ceiling's tall enough.
It's very tall, yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
they could fit.
Yeah, it's a thought. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they're
if we're
there
going to
already.
have to do what we do, we're going to have to do and make the changes we're kind of, at least for the most part, looking at.
Say, you can have these slides too.
Sure.
Add that to it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but turning that into, more of a splash. Basically, you're losing the depth is what you guys really need to do, because that's what really is the challenge, isn't it? The depth of water.
Yeah.
Surface water is not a big deal,
No.
but getting it deep and then holding it and circulating it and all that
right.
stuff.
Right.
So, well, it'll be interesting to see how that conversation keeps going as you're looking at other projects in the next 12 months or so. What else is on the horizon? What do
Well,
you see?
actually, tonight we've got, or I keep saying tonight, tomorrow night, we've got a couple of things. We're going to do we're going to approve a contract with an engineering firm called Lochner, who Lochner does all our airport stuff, but they're going to start doing the engineering for the first phase of the new terminal building out at the airport, and the first phase of that will be a much, much bigger parking lot. So the way that's going to look is, everybody knows where the current terminal building is. Across the street where the parking lot is now is where the new terminal is going to go. And so out in front of that east is where the parking will go. So we're going to take that whole block out there, and that's what they're going to take a look at, doing parking and stuff.
And I think that whole area is just vacant right now.
Yeah. There's a maintenance building there that we use, but that can be housed somewhere else. So I'm sure we'll take that down, and it's where the building maintenance folks where they work out of. But we've got other buildings that they can use, and we got plenty of time before the construction starts. But when you're working with the federal government and federal funds, that you've got to do this step by step. And so we're going to sign an engineering contract tonight with Lochner. That all of this gets reimbursed, the vast majority of it by federal funds. So I think we end up paying 5% of this, and so. Again, this is the step one. So, but it's going to be something fantastic for the community. We're also looking at a grant to KDOT to replace some of our stoplights, around 3 sets anyway. That's what we're looking at, and if they do that, it would be a 75-25 split, and modernize some of those intersections and things. So,
the discussions. I know nothing happens fast, but is there anything that has moved or discussions on the overpass? Is that still in discussion phase as far as like the planning? I know that we got a nice grant from the federal government to do the study on this.
Yeah, so we seem to be getting caught in every little bureaucratic foul up. We do have a new administrator assigned to our project, but that administrator hasn't been working for the last 30 days. So
sounds like there's a breakthrough there.
I know Keely is on top of it, and she stays in touch with it on a daily basis. And I heard her say that we do have an administrator now. So hopefully we'll get to start moving forward with that. And that's going to be just the engineering part of that is going to be the study of it. Is going to be a big project, and we're looking at which site do we want to put it? So,
yeah, and so I think the two under consideration was a Pershing option and a Western option, and the Western one seems like it's going to be a very more expensive option because you'd have to bridge not only over the tracks, but you'd have to bridge the highway.
Yeah.
And somehow get back on the right place on the highway. I'm not quite sure. I can't, because how close the highway is to the tracks.
Correct.
Causes a challenge.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do it in Pershing, you're just getting over tracks.
Right. Yeah, and you can come back in plenty of time to to beat the stoplight there, or at 54.
Second.
Yeah. So and go in the other direction as well.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, you're right. I've seen some just quick design work that we had done, and there's the Western option is a lot more complicated. You fly over the tracks, and then you fly over the highway, and then you essentially have to come back in at maybe Pine and relocate. So then how do you
get back?
Yeah.
To 54. And how do you, if you were going over that to head out west, and you got to come over, but how do you get across that lane?
Well, yeah, you have to come back and turn and come back. So it's a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
And, it's a bigger project. So, who knows how it's going to turn out. I mean, it'd probably be less disruptive to build it out there, but it's still a bigger project, probably twice the money that the Pershing Street project would be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I grew up on Pershing, just 122 South Pershing, just on the other side of Ohio there, between Ohio and First. And very familiar. As a matter of fact, at night, we didn't have central air. We had a couple of window units, and my
Right.
grandparents had one. We didn't, but you
Right,
had to leave
yep.
the window open so the air would
Yep.
flow to your room.
Yep.
But I couldn't go to sleep until I heard the whistle of the train, and then I could go to sleep. And it's amazing how things like that you remember. But the train, the grain elevator, there is that dead space right in the middle of town. So it's not like you're having to take out a bunch of commercial or real estate.
Right.
It'd be a little real estate, but not a
That'd
whole
be
lot.
some, but yeah, it wouldn't be be a big deal to the people who live in those places. But that's one of those things that if you're going to do it, that's I don't know how you're going to avoid doing that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you got that project.
Yep.
You've got the pool project. Looking at a couple of things going on in economic development. And yeah, it's an all of the above. I think that anyone in economic development like you would say, you don't turn anything down.
No.
And no one is saying that,
No.
but just saying, when I look at, not just jobs, but spin-offs or jobs that come from a job, that an industrial job creates what, 2.8, 3 other jobs?
probably.
Is there a number
Yeah.
on that? Did you
Yeah,
guys
I'm
look at
sure
that?
there is. Yeah.
But that's always good if you can plus it up and grow that way. We got to speak with the Conestoga guys the other day, and they're looking at $150 million
Right.
expansion out there.
Right. Well, just the Sapphire project's what, 80 million, 70, 80 million, something like that. So, there'll be great jobs that come with that. I mean, those are good, high-paying jobs. You're talking about chemical engineers and that kind of thing, and they don't pay those guys $15 an hour.
No, and I mean, you know how hard it is to recruit anybody.
Oh, yeah.
But if you already have an existing business with a footprint here, I mean, when you're in economic development, did you work with existing business on how to expand or what options are there?
Sure.
And so is this right up that alley?
Oh, no question. Yeah, it sure is. So yeah, I mean, those are the kind of things you want. You want your homegrown stuff to succeed, and it's easier to help a local business expand than it is to recruit somebody new to come to town. So, Eli's great at doing that, and we've got Tom there to help folks with the financials, and that's the development corporation is turning into be a great asset for the community. It really is. I mean, the services they provide are services that we've never ever been able to touch because we just haven't had the capacity to. And so those guys are doing a great job.
Yeah, and it took a little bit to get there, but everybody in town, as far as like all of our different interest groups in growth, all came together to form the Seward County Development Corporation. And I'm really excited. I think if there's a home run off of it, it would be if when we start seeing drones made in Liberal, Kansas.
Right.
That's going to be big, isn't
Right.
it?
Yep. Yeah, we're it would be great to build the entire drone. The first company is building components, but yeah, I mean, I think it leads to at least a little bit more than just one company. So
Yeah.
you hope you have several, but
I'd like to see that first one have a little sticker of a ruby red slipper or something on it, But no, I mean, I've talked with some people and they're just like, we're going to get what? I mean, no one saw that on the
it's
radar.
advanced manufacturing. It really is, and I mean, we got folks in town that are completely capable of performing those those manufacturing processes, but it's one of those things where they're going to come into that building and they're going to have to make some modifications to it because it's not like just welding these things together. There's a clean room and there's a static free room that they have to do, and so that all the components go together cleanly and so it's a new era for us for sure, and could start something new. You never can tell.
some people are smarter than I am. I love watching them on on Facebook videos. You're talking about a clean room. I had sanded a wood floor. You probably do that from time to time. And I told Heather, oh no, I don't think we'll have to cover much stuff. Well, that stuff got everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
And but this guy, he took 4 filters like you put in your heating air conditioning unit, and he made a square, and then he put a cardboard bottom on that, and he took a regular fan, just a box fan, and he put that on the top, blowing out.
Right.
And so as he was doing something in the room, he had that fan blowing, and all that air had to go through that filter, and the air was totally clean.
Yeah.
I was like, I could have done that, and that would have saved me a headache in cleaning up after all that dust. If you've ever sanded a floor, you know what I'm talking about.
A lot of dust, yeah.
But isn't it neat, those kind of things, but a clean room,
Yeah.
or even if you're doing some painting, like auto painting, you have to have some good ventilation.
Yeah, a good paint booth.
For that, yeah. And so these guys, I can't imagine with how clean, I mean, you're putting together plastic casing and all of that. You don't want any particulates or anything around that.
Right.
So that's going to be a really cool building. Do you know any time frame?
No, I think they're looking at I think their equipment lands end of this month out on the West Coast. You know, they put it on a truck and they get it here. I know construction should start probably. You know, I haven't heard a definite date, but I can't imagine that they're gonna wait around and production sometime in 2026. So it's going to happen. You know, it's happening, and I think just it's going to be exciting to see for sure. Step one of that.
Yeah, I think back of all the different iterations of things that have come and gone over the years, and some the ones that have stuck and some didn't. But I'm looking at that and thinking that could be a long term deal.
Yes, yeah, very very well could be. I mean, I think we're just on the leading edge of what drones can do, and these guys are, they've been doing it for a while.
And you talk about these other spinoffs. I mean, Wichita is the air capital. Why don't we make Liberal in the United States the drone capital?
There you go.
Wouldn't that be something?
I'd take it.
Yeah. We'll take it. But we used to build planes here.
Yeah.
Built them for Beechcraft. We built the backs of trailers at one time. We built the backs of trucks to Halliburton plant. There's been different kinds of industrial happenings across this community over the years.
Oh yeah.
You go back. We were the broom corn capital. They made watermelon seeds from here. I mean, there's the effort to say we'll try things and see, and of course National Beef has, when Jacobson came out here and put that plant out here, that's stuck now. We're talking about 60, 70 years. So
yeah, it was the late 60s when they came, mid to late 60s. So yeah.
So I mean,
it's stuck for sure.
It has. And so there's that. Steve's asking, where's the drone place going to be located? I don't know if you can share the location.
There's not been an announcement yet, and I
that's
it's always been my thing. That's their announcement to make, but I think that's coming soon.
Yeah.
And so it's an existing building, and so cats will be out of bags soon.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a couple of things that were happening, mostly up on North Kansas Avenue. There was some work going on. I pulled over and I asked the construction guy, I said, hey, what are you guys working on? And that was, he said, here, you have to call these guys. And that was Freddy's, when they were building Freddy's. And then I saw a hole being dug, and I checked with some people, said, hey, what's going on here? And that's when I found out it was 7 Brews.
Okay.
But 7 Brews was about the fastest build I've ever seen.
That was a prefab thing. They just came and unloaded off the back of a truck.
Dropped a house. We talk about in Kansas, dropping a house is usually not a good thing.
Yeah, right.
But they dropped it and started serving coffee and giving it away for the first week or two. And now that thing is just constant.
Yeah.
I see cars there all the time, and a different kind of concept, working outside. I wonder how that's going to work out here in the next couple of months. We'll see.
It won't be fun, will it?
Today won't be good right now.
No.
But the growth. Sometimes you just think, what do we want? What do we need more? Well, who would have thought we'd have 4 coffee shops? You got the Cozy Corner, you got Scooters, you got Starbucks, a very well-known brand, and Seven Brews. I heard the possibility of an HTO. There's all kinds of things.
Yep.
And this is just in the last few years that a lot of these things have started up. And, it's not like, we always like, nothing's happening. You're just sometimes too close to the forest to see the trees, aren't
Maybe,
you?
yeah, maybe. And, people complain about, getting something, like a Seven Brews. Well, why would you complain? Someone's willing to come in and invest their money in Liberal, hire local people to run it, pay taxes on the site and the building, and why would you complain about that? Yeah, you just in my life, I just can't see that you would complain about anybody willing to invest in Liberal.
Well, it's not just that. I think some people, and I did too, I had the wrong concept until I took entrepreneurship at Wichita State University. And they had some contacts.
Oh, no,
we got to, this is a while back, but we had Frank Carney, one of the Carney brothers that started Pizza Hut, was one of the presentation people, R. David Thomas, who started Wendy's. We had some big time people there sharing, but everyone thinks competition, the goal is to run somebody out of business. But we had these people talking about on especially these food outlets, chain restaurants.
Right.
And they said, what actually happens if you go to a town that doesn't have a lot of food options, people just don't eat out a lot because they're like, I've already done that, I've already done that, I've already done that.
Right.
Let's just eat at home. But if you have a place that has several options, then you're like, well, I haven't been there in a while, and I haven't been there in a while, and so you continue to go out more often.
Right.
So let's think about the coffee deal. Not everyone likes this one or that one, but this one's my favorite. So what you see is more people participating in that cut of the market because there's another option in it. It's not always I steal from you, you steal from me. Now there's a critical mass on certain things.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But for the most part, what they said was, we want a McDonald's down the street. We want a Burger King down the street.
Yep.
That doesn't hurt us. That helps us. And a matter of fact, they work together on similar things on like the cup companies. They'll say, okay, we're all going to have a 32-ounce cup or a 16-ounce cup. And they said, well, we want a 14-ounce cup.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to cost you more because we don't make as many of those. So they found out if they standardize some of these sizing things, that saves them all money, which saves us as a consumer money.
Right.
And they can compete on other things, but there is some synergy between all these different companies out there, and it benefits all of us to have multiple options in the marketplace. But it doesn't mean I'm only going to eat out once this week, so what's that one place going to be? It's like, hey, I'm going to eat out because we have options. I'm going to eat out more times, or I'm going to go shopping, do this. So blended consumerism is a good thing,
Sure it is.
and it benefits everybody.
Yeah.
And why do you think malls, why would you want to be in a mall with all these other businesses competing? No, they understood there's a benefit to all of them being in the same location.
Right.
I can't remember the name of it, you might, down in Oklahoma City, that they look like little teepees. You know that area I'm talking about?
Yes.
That's an outdoor mall.
Right.
But it's always crawling with people.
Yeah.
Because they all come together into one area. I mean, you studied economic development. I went to entrepreneurship. These some concepts they talk about?
Oh, no question. Yeah, I mean, it's a symbiotic relationship. One you get enough places, and it builds traffic, and say, oh, well, you want to go to Hobby Lobby. Well, I might stop at Kohl's while I'm there, and so yeah, I mean, those companies, while they might be even in the same kind of business, they feed off each other, and they, the more people they can pull into their area, the more shoppers they have, and then it just kind of goes from there. But yeah, that's 100% correct. If you have no choices, then nobody's going to come and shop there. So I mean, it makes sense.
It does, and let's put it on a bigger scale. Why is it that Orlando has
Right.
Disney World, Universal, Busch Gardens. You think, oh, there's no way they can make it. Are you kidding me? What that does is that brings people from all over, not just the country, the world to Orlando.
Oh yeah, no question. Yeah.
And to fill up all these motels and to come to all of these parks.
Yep. We went to a series of meetings. They had it at in Orlando. It's been several years ago, but they had it at a Disney property. Well, when we got done with the meeting, and of course we did the Disney thing. Well, we all loaded up into an Uber and we went over and spent the day at Universal Studios. So yeah, we hit them both. So yeah, that's why you have them close together. They probably wouldn't have gotten to Orlando to Disney. John Deere wouldn't if they didn't have other things for their people to do.
And they may compete with each other to try to put out a better attraction, a better show. But who does that benefit?
Yeah.
The consumer.
Yeah.
You're getting really top quality stuff on that. So, I understand that we can get to critical mass. Even if we all went out every day to eat, there's going to be only so much we can eat.
Right.
But are we there yet? Maybe how can you say that in coffee? Because now we got 4, and they're all still going.
See, Julie and I were driving down the street over the weekend, looked over to the right and looking at Cozy Corner, and the place was packed.
I know it.
It was just packed, and that just makes my whole body and soul feel good.
And I believe, it's just me, that you can develop that kind of vibe on several blocks.
No question, yeah.
And I see that happening. I do. I think it's going to happen. It's going to take some courage, and even a little discomfort maybe for till we learn some things. But I really think that that's going to happen. But I see cups with Scooter on it. I see cups with Starbucks on it. I see 7 Brews. That means they're all doing business.
Yep.
And do you want options in grocery stores or do you want one? I think it's always good to have competition.
Sure.
And they're always working then to say, how do we keep our lights on? And that's a good thing.
Sure.
So competition is good for everybody, and I'm glad to see that. And also, these industrial options we're talking about, drones, and I don't know what all these spinoffs might be from that, but let's bring, I can't remember how many toys I had made in Taiwan. Taiwan's been a good American friend over the years.
Yeah.
Why not?
Sure. Yeah. They're willing to invest a lot of money to come set up here. I hope everybody welcomes them with open arms. I can't see that we wouldn't.
No.
That's our pattern. So I think it's great, and there'll be 35-ish good jobs that come with it, which is always good. And you know how that works. There's a factor there, that a multiplier.
That's right.
So it's good. And there's some other really cool things in the mix too that I know that poor Eli got picked for jury duty, and he's been out of the office for like a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, we're covering that one.
And I texted him over the weekend. It looks like that continues this week, but that guy's he just works his tail off to bring business to Liberal, and it's great to have some success, and there's stuff that we're talking about now, like the Taiwan thing, but there's things that are still in the mill that you don't talk about yet, but that are progressing. Still steps to go before they're sure deals, but he's working on it, and he occasionally pulls the city people in, something like that, and we help provide information, that kind of thing. But it's a thing that never stops, economic development, and he's doing a great job for us.
Well, I took a tour of a Kentucky Toyota plant, and Toyota has always been a foreign brand, right?
Yep.
But they're building them in America.
Yep.
And every 6 minutes they had this door. Every 6 minutes a Toyota came out, that brand new Toyota came rolling out that door.
Right.
And saw how they paint them, saw how they put the headliners in, got to tour. It was a pretty cool thing. But all American workers, giving American people jobs, building Toyotas in this country and selling them here. And drones, You know, if you want to be on the front end of the wave of the future, you know, drones aren't going anywhere.
Nope.
They're going to be around for
Yep.
a long, long time.
Yep.
And why not be on the front end of that? I don't know where else they are manufactured in America. I'm sure there's some.
Oh, they're you know they are somewhere. But these guys have been doing it for a while, and you know, there's reasons they want to do it. One, you know, President says, well, if you want to sell into the government, into the military, you're going to have to build it here. Well, there's also geopolitical reasons that, you know, they don't want all their eggs in basket. You know, I don't know how close they are to China, but they're not very far away. And so they want to get, you know, they want to spread their manufacturing to different locations, so they don't have all their eggs in one basket, so to speak. So it's good for them, and it's, you know, it's going to be good for us too.
Well, national security, I found out a few years ago, it's been a few years, we cannot even manufacture our own nuclear material in this country anymore. We have to have support from outside. That is not good.
No.
America has to be able to defend itself and produce its own products. And I'm telling you, one day maybe wars are fought with drones. It won't even be man on man. It'll
Right.
be
Oh yeah.
drone on drone. And you know, these kind of things are important. They save lives, at least, you know, if you're thinking about, do you put a soldier on the ground or do you send a drone?
Right.
And you know, I'm just glad that we're looking at these options. I hope we never have to use them for those
Exactly.
cases.
Yeah, exactly.
But you better have them in case. And you know, and say that may also make Liberal one of the most secure, safest cities on the planet. You know, we've got our own drones, so you better leave us alone.
That's right. Yeah.
But no, it's a good thing. Well, I've asked you a lot of things, and I appreciate you staying a little bit longer with me today. Anything I didn't check with that's coming up?
No, I don't think so. We made the rounds pretty good. No, we got a commission meeting tomorrow. One of the things that we are starting something new tomorrow. So at the first meeting of every month, we're going to meet beforehand, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're going to have a work session. You know, during a commission meeting, sometimes it's hard to have those discussions when you've got an agenda that you have to stick to, and you know, I mean, it really is regulated how far you can get off the agenda. So we just thought we would start. There's not necessarily a topic for every one of those things, but this is just a way for us, the 5 of us, and the staff to get together and kind of talk through some ideas and projects and things like that. So we're going to do it at, you know, we're going to spend probably at least an hour once a month and do that. You know, we find that when we can collaborate, the 5 of us, it works pretty good. You know, I mean, the process sometimes is ugly, but you know what, the finished product has been good. I think we've all got different perspectives, but we talk it out, you know, and so we start the first one of those. Actually, we did one last month with the swimming pool, but we're going to make it a regular thing starting tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So I'm excited about that.
Well, good. And with the 3 being reelected, you know, I mean, I guess if you had someone new, then maybe that changes the dynamic. But your dynamic, you know, I think you guys maybe have it down a little bit as far as.
Yeah, well, yeah, we've been together for 2 years now, for sure, all of us. But you know, to get, you know, at least you know, 2 more years for the same group, so you know that'll be 4 years as a commission. You know, I think it works well. We've worked well together. We've been able to accomplish some things, and I'm actually honestly looking forward to being able to work with the same group for another couple of years.
And I think you get re-sworn in on January.
Yeah, first meeting in January. I couldn't tell you what the date is exactly.
And so you'll start term number 2. You're still finishing up term number
Yep,
1. Got a
yep.
couple more months of that.
Yeah, a couple months.
Get that wrapped up and then move forward. So the election behind you, now you can look forward for 4 years, right?
Yeah, right.
Now, Matt, he's got to keep his toes.
Yep. Yeah.
He's still got a 4-year term. It just took 2 elections
Right.
to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But he got his 4 years.
Yeah. So
and
I mean, you know, in 2 years you'll have Matt will be up, and you know, we hope Ronnie decides to run again, obviously, and Jose. So they'll be the 3 that'll be those 3 seats will be open in 2 years. But you know, that's a long time, and you know, hopefully a lot of good things happen between now and then. That's, I'm confident there will be a lot of good things happen between now and then.
Yeah, well, there's good things happening now, and I think that's probably why you didn't see any other names out there. People are like, let's just keep rocking and rolling with the way things are going in the city. We do have some things that I'll talk about. We're going to let Jeff get back to his day job. I appreciate you coming in and
Always, yeah,
helping
I'm
me
glad to
out.
be here.
Did a little study, a little research on the county surplus and whether or not we're going to have that in another year or two. We're going to show you the numbers right after this.
Our loved ones leave an impression on us, and it's important to make sure their lasting impression honors the life they led. Since 1956, the Jones family has been providing lasting legacies to the lives of our loved ones, and that torch has now been passed to the Creekmore family. The commitment to compassion continues by offering the largest inventory in stock in the region with in-house custom craftsmanship that makes sure each piece is as unique as the life it represents. With a combined 82 years of experience and professional designers on staff, Jones Monument continues to provide affordable pricing and convenient turnaround times. They are ready to serve you from 9:30 to 5 Monday through Friday and 9:30 to noon on Saturday. Yes, our loved ones may have passed, but the memorial left behind stands as a testament to our never-ending love. The staff at Jones Monument understands that, and that's why providing monuments is more than a sideline at Jones Monument. That's all they do. Visit Jones Monument when you're ready to make an impression beyond a lifetime.
Fall off the bone ribs, dripping with our signature barbecue sauce. Tender pulled pork and brisket smoked to perfection. All served with family recipe home-style sides. It's all waiting for you at the Brick House Barbecue and Brew. Open 7 days a week, your barbecue appetite can be satisfied anytime for lunch or dinner. Brick House serves full dinners, combos, sandwiches, and take-home packs. Enjoy a variety of brews on tap or a mixed drink. Shaken, not stirred. Give your taste buds a treat at Brick House Barbecue and Brew, 24 East 2nd Street in Liberal. Like us on Facebook and see our full menu at brickhouselk.com.
Jeff also told me before he left that tonight the city's going to sign the agreement for the fire station separation between Seward County and the city of Liberal. If you remember, they talked about putting the fire station for the county over in the separate facility over on 18th Street and vacating the space that they had inside the fire station at the corner of, I believe that's 15th and Grant, right, kind of just a little catty corner of Southwest Medical Center. So that deal has been worked out, and so they're going to be able to do that. I do want to talk to you about some research that's been done. This is ongoing, and other developments we'll hold off for another day or two while we're finishing up some other things that are developing on the county budget and on the BOTA complaints. But the big thing I want you to see, and I'm going to have to explain this chart to you, but at the end of the year with any kind of budget, you can have some extra money if you're doing it in a responsible fashion, and that would be called your surplus or your cash balances. It means that you had more money at the end of the year than you needed, and that's generally a good thing. So I'm going to show you this chart of several years now with the Seward County budget, and I'm going to have to explain some things to you as we go here, but how that surplus is disappearing in a hurry with this commission. So let me show you this chart, and we're going to start back in the year 2019. Now, I want to just explain how this chart works so you know what these numbers mean. Obviously, across the bottom is the year, but that first number is how much was in the bank on January 1 at the beginning of that year. So if you look at 2019, they would have set that budget in 2018, and then at the beginning of that budget, when they started that budget in 2019, that's how much money they had to start with before collecting any new taxes. So you see that number right there at $2.33 million, okay? And you'll see that the commissions, and just to reiterate, past commissions have been blamed for something that's happening at the current commission level, but this chart will show you how past commissions, so 2019 they started with 2.3, they built that in 2020 to 4.04 or 6 million. Then in 2021 they built that to 5.13 million. Then that past commission 2022 built it to 5.93 million. This is surplus money, extra money. They covered everything that they spent for the county that they needed, and they had this much money extra at the end of the year. 2023, 6.91 million. Now remember, that's at the beginning of the year of 2023. So let me just reiterate, this is where I kind of need to explain things to you. Because in 2022 there was an election. But the commission in 2022 still set the budget for 2023. That's how it works, just like right now, right? This is 2025, and this commission just passed the budget for 2026. So the 22 commissioners passed a budget for 2023, okay? So the 2023 budget belonged to the 2022 commission. Now, that's when the 3 new commissioners were elected in 2022, but they had nothing to do yet because they didn't even get sworn in until January. So when those guys got sworn in January, they had a surplus of 6.9 million, and they weren't working off of their budget yet because that budget was passed by the previous commission. So by the end of the year, in the beginning of 2024, the commission, or what's been called the taxing trio of Tammy Sutherland Abbott, Scott Carr, and Persephone Fuller, at the beginning of when they started their budget, their first budget that they put together at the end of 23 for the 24 year, they started in the bank with 7.48 million. You see how that built up to $7.48 million. So they got to start with money in the bank, and you can see how it continued to climb. So their first budget that they put together was a 2024 budget. So at the end of the year, or on the top of the 2025 budget, you'll see they decreased the surplus down to 5.16 million. It went from 7.48 down to 5.16. That was their first budget year, and they spent more money than they brought in. Okay? So remember last year, and at the end of 24, when they were putting together a 25 budget, they talked about an 8 mil increase, but they didn't pass it properly, and so they had to stay revenue neutral, but they didn't cut spending. And so you look at the beginning of this coming year, 2026, according to their numbers, they're going to start the year with 2.37 in the bank. So in 2 years under these guys' budgets, the taxing trio, you went from a $7.48 million surplus down to a $2.37 million surplus to start this year. Now, if you look at their proposed budget and their income, at the end of next year, at the beginning of 2027, they're going to have that down to $80,000 in the bank. So they will have burned through a $7.48 million surplus down to $80,000 by the end of their third budget. Now remember, at the end of next year, even though they'll be up for election at the end of 26, they will put together the budget for the 27 year. So if they don't curb spending, if they keep doing what they're doing, that $80,000 will be gone quickly, and there won't be any money to cover their budgets if they don't cut spending, or, I've done the math here, raise your taxes in addition to what they just raised it they would have to raise to cover their spending level another 10.4 mils just to get that line to stay flat, to stay down at that 80,000 level. They would have to raise your taxes, because if they refuse to cut spending, even with this massive tax increase that probably won't stand because BOTA still has the rule on that. So that could make that 80,000 go away in during the 26 year. It could be less than that if they don't cut spending. But look at what it took. It took past commissioners' fiscal responsibility to build that thing up over 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and even the years before 19 to get it up to that 2 million. But all of that work to save up and have a $7.48 million surplus, that then when they started doing their budgets, they have already blown through $5 million of the surplus, and by the end of the coming year, we'll have basically completely spent it all. So these are their numbers, except for the 2027 number. That is based on the estimate of their spending that they've proposed versus the income that they're going to bring in with the taxes. So, that's why there's an asterisk on that far year. The other numbers are all their numbers. We didn't create those numbers. Those numbers are on their budget sheets. Every one of those numbers is a county-derived number. So this is where you're at, and this is why people are concerned, about seeing their taxes continue to escalate, and yet that money plus the surpluses are just getting chewed up. Now, they use excuses that you can't keep spending the surplus, or you can't keep spending, the cash balance, if you want to call it, if they want to say it that way. There's a way to stop that. You're just going to have to slow down or stop your spending. And in their discussions, they seem to just say, that salaries and job positions and that they already have and benefits are off limits. And if you look at their budgets, you'll see that, because they've talked about cutting 18 positions, but a majority of those either were absorbed or given raises to other people, or they were jobs they've never been able to fill anyway. We cannot fill all the jobs for the jailers. I wish they could, but they just haven't been able to do that. So the jobs that they eliminated, that they claim, you're not going to see any reduced dollar amount for that we've been able to find, and their own numbers. This is their numbers. This chart is Seward County surplus, how much money they had extra, and they had money extra until the taxing trio got in. And ever since then, they have spent more and more and more. I mean, you can't blame, how do you blame the ones before when every year before for the last 6 years and several before that, put money in the bank, left the county with more money. And you're going to say it's decisions they made that caused you to deficit spend the budget? Does that make any sense to you? It doesn't to me. And we're continuing to research and look into that, but we just want to bring it to you so that you can see it, so you can make your judgments on, what kind of leadership you're looking for. Also, we looked at our electric bill. My wife brought this up to me. There's a new line on there that says, because of tax increases, you're going to see your electric bill have to be increased. I mean, so your utilities have to go up, not because you're using more electricity, not because electricity just costs more, but the buildings and the infrastructure that it takes to produce and have the electricity. They're dinging those guys too. So guess what happens? It gets passed on to the consumer. That's the easiest way to show you when the cost of government goes up. on commercial property or anything like that, guess who ends up paying for it? The rich guys like everyone thinks? No, the consumer. The consumer gets stuck with it every single time. You want to make it more expensive to own a building in Liberal? Well, you gotta make it more expensive to buy products out of that building in Liberal. It's just that simple. You want to increase property taxes on the homes in Liberal? Well, you're increasing rent on the homes in Liberal, on the apartments, on the houses. There's just no way around it. No way around it. And, so fully expect them to tell you the scare tactic is, then you're going to just have cut services. Well, if that means we can only go in and get certain things done on certain days, if that's really where they want to take it, then that's what you have to do. Because if they keep going this route, people aren't going to be able to get a paycheck soon anyway. Or they're going to ask you to come up with another 10 plus mil increase just to balance this chart out. Look at this chart again. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, all added money to the surplus. But since then, so when you hear this thing about this isn't your first rodeo or this isn't the first, this is new. Spending money beyond what you bring in is new. Just look at that chart. If you're saying, well, our leadership and everything is still as solid as it's always been, we're doing what we've always, we're being as responsible as we got, then where is it? Why is it that chart took a new direction under this commission? There's the numbers. Who recommended those budgets? Who shared those budgets? You may want to hold them accountable, but the facts are, who voted for this budget? Who supported these budgets? Who said this was a good idea? Who said, I know it's, and what did they tell you? Oh, it was past commission spent money. Really? They left it in the bank account for you. There it is, right there. They didn't spend it. It's right there. They gave it to you. They turned it over to you. So if you look at the numbers that they're talking about, they just raised your taxes 14.8 mils at Seward County. You're going to be getting those notices. It's out there on their website. If you want to go look it up now, you can see what your new house rate's going to be. Some have done that. And yeah, I don't know what I can tell you. You've already told me, I didn't realize it was going up this much. Well, we've been telling you. We've been telling you. And there it is. You're going to get it. You're going to get that. And then I can't imagine what, the people that are going to start getting their statements this week or so, what their reaction is going to be. But this is not a tax solving problem. It's a spending issue. They spent more. This commission, who their first budget they put together at the end of 24 was their first, at the end of 23. At the end of 23 was the first budget they got to put together and what we're going to spend in 24. And they started that year with a 7.48. That's what they inherited. They inherited $7.48 million in the bank. Right there. By the end of 25, that's dropped down to, at the beginning of 25, after 1 year of their budgeting, that 7.4 dropped to 5.1. That's $2.3 million gone. So they started that year with, so certainly that would have helped them straighten everything out, right? That would have helped them get everything in order. But no. They put together the 25 budget, which we're in right now. And by their numbers, the end of the year here in another couple of months, they're going to be down to 2.37. So they burned through another $2.8 million. Gone. And this new budget that they just put together, that will start the year with $2.37 million. If they follow through with that spending, by the beginning of 2027, they'll be down to $80,000. $7,480,000 to $80,000. That's $7,400,000 this commission will have burned through in their 3 years of budgeting so far. And they get one more year, because at the end of 26, they will set the budget that the next group will inherit. If there's anything left, or that then they'll be forced to do either layoffs or something. It's either you do it the right way, or you do it when you're out of money. They always say, everything looks good until you run out of somebody else's money. Well, look at that chart. That's your money, people. Responsible commissions in the past built it up, turned over the keys to the kingdom and $7.4 million in the bank. And the guys you have now started the budget process. And the same administration. So what's different? But what'd they tell you? Inflation. Well, how is it that in the past, COVID was 2020. We didn't have inflation in 21 or 22 or 23? And look, those commissions found a way to cover all the costs and increase the surplus. But this was their fault, we're being told. That's a nice political statement to make. Always blame somebody else. But look at the numbers. And what do the numbers tell you? Was it these past commissioners in 19, 20, 21, 22, 23? No, they covered everything we needed to have done and left money in the bank. But not this commission. No. Since those three came on, and all we hear is what a great job these three have come on, what they've been able to accomplish, what they've been able to do. So tell me, in the last 3 years, what do you look at and say, this was a success in Seward County? This is something that Seward County did that we weren't ever able to do before. Look what we've been able to do. Look what we've done. Look what we've built. Look what we've done to increase services to the people. Tell me what it is. Tell me what we've done that has caused us to have to spend $2+ million a year beyond your budgets. Does that sound like responsible government? I heard Scott say we can't keep spending our carryover, our cash balances, the surplus. We can't keep doing that. He's right. He can't, because he's going to be the guy who presided over it running down to nothing. What kind of a legacy is that? Started with $7.4 million in the bank, over, and have eroded that down. And if you continue their road, and it's their road, you continue their road, by the time they end their first term, they'll be down to $80,000 in the bank. The next group will inherit that and have to deal with that unless you vote these guys back in, which you certainly can if they choose to run. Fuller said she's not running again, so there's one that we have a new person there. But will other people come in and be able to solve this? And what will they have to do? They'll have to do what these guys have refused to do. They're going to have to look at all costs of the county and figure out how to do that. I know some people think, oh, that's just not a popular thing to say. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. You can't just say, well, how else do you solve the issue when labor and benefits are your top expenses? And you can watch the Leader in Times Tuesday, because we also have a comparison. It was said by Chairman Scott Carr that our benefits package are in line with others. Is that true? We're working on that story as well. And it's not, you don't have to go far. You can compare it right here in Seward County to the city of Liberal. And we're going to show you how their benefit packages compare, their paid time off plans. Plus, we looked at some other counties, and you'll be stunned to see how lucrative our plan is compared to others. But, and I'm fine with that. I mean, you know, the truth is, all we're going to do is bring you the truth. What they're telling you is, the truth is, it's comparable. I'd like to see who they're comparing it to. We'll show you who we've compared it to. But also, we're going to show you right here in our own backyard how it compares. And let me tell you, you might be a little shocked at when you see the differences from two that you're paying. You're paying both these entities, and you're going to see how much one costs you versus another. But we've got all the numbers. Do they think people aren't going to check what they're saying? Of course they're going to get checked. And it's not just by us. There's some other state watchdog groups that have contacted me and said, we need to talk about this. They've done some independent research of their own. And I was like, wow. If it wasn't for local citizens and some of these watchdog groups, you'd be left out in the dark. I mean, we're gathering it up here just to get it out to you. Where else would you get it, by the way, if we weren't bringing it to you? You know, just remember that. You know, we're here to make sure we're getting this out to you so you know what's happening in your own community. And remember, I've said this before, I'll say it again, no matter how frustrated you might get, don't blame the workers. You know, if you see a county employee, don't approach them or make their day any worse. They're just workers. They're just trying to do the best they can. This is management. This is management, which also goes to your elected officials. That's the level where the problems are at. You know, so don't attack the workers or any of that stuff. Yeah, some may have seen at the Saints game, I had a family member of administrator come up to me and threaten me. I don't care. You know, I don't take it out on an elderly person thinking they're defending a family member. You know, you're going to get that. I'm fine with that. You know, shouldn't happen, you know, but it does. But it's up to the other side to police themselves. If they're going to allow that or they think that's good, that's on them. I'm telling you, if you're upset about your taxes, you're upset about this, don't go out and make a public scene. Show up to the meeting and let them hear you there, because there's no other way they're going to hear you. They have made that clear. I'll keep asking questions, and they'll just tell me they're going to discuss at the next meeting. They will not make a statement. They've chosen to just not. And typically, you reach out to the leader of the group. You reach out to the chairman, or you reach out to the mayor. You reach out to the president of the school board. That's the way you do it. Not fancy. That's just the way that it's been done. And this chairman doesn't want to make a statement. He says, we'll discuss it. I'm just one of five. There'll be different opinions. That's true. But we go to the chairman to say, you know, he should have the view of, you know, where those discussions are or what's taking place or that. You know, the half-cent sales tax that they tried to pass was defeated 74 to 26%. That's a drubbing. You know, that's a 49-point loss if you want to look at it that way. That's pretty significant around that range. So you want to, let's make sure I'm saying 48-point loss. So, you know, shouldn't you know, well, what's the plan or what was the discussions or is there one? My hope is, and I hope our elected officials know, there is no way they ought to ask, because that took special permission from the Kansas legislature to even put it on the ballot. And I hope our elected officials now would say, we're not putting that back on the ballot in Liberal until they've had an election, or Seward County. Remember, it was Seward County. That had nothing to do with the 1 cent sales tax that's doing an outstanding job in making improvements. You heard today from Commissioner Parsons on some projects being worked on with the 1 cent sales tax. Look what that's doing in our community. This was a half-cent sales tax by the county, and the people said, no, we're not doing that. So just remember the difference between those. But, I mean, I've never seen this attempted trifecta before. Your values went up. That's a tax increase right there. Even if you stay the same mill levy, if your value goes up, that's a tax increase. Then they pushed the mill levy 14.8 at the county. That's a double tax increase. That's double dipping, if you want to say it like that. And then they went for sales tax on top of that. That's triple. They thought you would do it. They thought you would go triple. Of course, you didn't have a say on the other ones. But the one that you did have a say on, you let them know. No. But will they get the message? You know, that's something that that you've got to figure out. We've got to do better. We've got to do better. And this chart shows you that past commissions did. They covered the expenses of the county and left it in good fiscal condition. You look at this chart from the time these guys took it over and got to put their first budgets together, and look at the way that chart has gone. That's the legacy that you're looking at. That's what you're looking at, because they won't say no to spending. They increase your taxes that the other ones didn't do. The other ones did this with lower mill levy rates. Lower mill levy rates. They talked about one year they cut 4 mills, and that's true. And look, they still put money in the bank. Those past commissions still added to a surplus at Seward County. Even when they lowered the mill levy, they did it. But look since. Look since. Since Scott Carr and Tammy Sutherland Abbott and Persephone Fuller have voted for budgets, you went from a $7.48 million surplus to a $5.16 million surplus to a $2.37 million surplus. And if you carry out their plan, at the end of next year, starting 2027, you have $80,000 in the county bank. That's your surplus. So folks, I don't know how else to share it with you than that right there. That's what they inherited, and that's what they've done with it. So you have to tell me, are you good with that? Was that responsible? That's your call. I wish you could make that call sooner than a year, but that's the way that the system works. This is the way the budget's working. This is what they chose to do. This was their plan. They had the keys to the kingdom. They had the votes. And they thought, well, we put money away for that court case. So, $7.48 million, they're putting $2.5 million away. That would have taken them down to $5 million. They're down to 2.37. 2.37. They're spending, and they're not willing to explore what it takes to cut the spending. Steve Helm put a plan out and said he had a plan for $2 million in cuts, and he said he could do that without affecting employees or the benefits package. I don't know how, but they ought to at least be willing to look and listen to that. don't get your hopes up. But I don't know how that they're going to be able to continue to do that kind of thing without looking at everything. Everything's got to be on the table. Nobody likes it. I get that, But the reality is, whether it's through attrition or something, they have to start looking at what they can afford to do. And the other thing is, you never get this money back. Money's gone. Where did it go? Who got it? What did we get for it as taxpayers? Can you point to a new building or a bunch of new equipment or anything other than the run-of-the-mill stuff? And on top of all of this, they had ARPA money. They had American Rescue Plan money. Where did that go? Goodness. And I know it was earmarked. You could only get certain things with that, as it should have been. That was supposed to be to help us get through the pandemic. It would have been a great time to be in the plexiglass business, because there's a lot of that purchased over that time. And but all we do here is present you the numbers and share with you the facts, and then you get to make the calls yourself on what you want to see in leadership moving forward. Congratulations to those who just recently won seats on the school board, and the repeat people who will be returning to the city commission, and Brett Reese, who will be a newcomer to the Seward County Community College Board of Trustees after the retirement of Mr. Oliver. Good luck, and congratulations. Looking forward to the leadership that you guys will provide at those institutions. This one, this is the one that we, none of those increased your mill levy major like this. None of them did. The school district lowered it. The college, it is a fraction. And the city stayed exactly the same mill levy as last year. Exactly the same. But Earl, they still brought in more money because property, yeah, they did. They did. But can I live with that they kept the mill levy the same? And because there are things like inflation, there are things that are going to cause products to cost more. We get that. We're not oblivious to that. So yeah, I'm okay with property value increases, but you got to keep the mill levy in that window. Otherwise, you're just on a track to taking people's houses, because if you keep upping the mill levy, eventually you're going to get to 100%. The value of somebody's house. The mill levy has to be maintained. How we grow and do that is if our property's worth more and we add more properties. That's the goal. That's how you grow. That's how you add jobs. Why do we keep adding jobs if we're not growing? That wouldn't make any sense, would it? How would we increase the cost of those jobs if we're not growing? That doesn't make any sense either. Or if other jobs aren't. And I heard, everyone gets all these jobs off, and I was thinking, Veterans Day is coming up. Do you think all the plants and commercial work around town is going to shut down for that? No. That doesn't mean they don't honor their veterans, and I'm not against those places that are going to, but I think they're going to have school tomorrow. I don't think they're shutting down for Veterans Day for that. This idea that everybody gets these days off. No, they don't. No, they don't. And the day after Thanksgiving, not everyone gets that day off, especially in the retail sector. You think Walmart's going to be closed on that day? I can guarantee you they're not. You think Dillon's will be closed? No. Life carries on. But the county will be closed, probably the city, some others. Not everyone gets those days off. So to make that claim, is just not accurate. It's not true. And the one thing that we need, and that it in some cases is required, especially when you're having a revenue neutral rate hearing, is to be honest with the public. It's called truth in taxation. That's the protection for the people. Truth in taxation. If you're not truthful, you have tainted the process. It's just that simple. Can't tax people on bad information. There's still a big question if you can tax them this much for an unknown in the first place. You can tax in general to put money away for the possibility of a reserve for claim. But when you're specifically talking about one specific claim and that you don't know what that one's going to be, that's a different deal. Plus, calling it a debt. It's not a debt. We don't even know it's a refund at some point. But telling people we have a debt, it's not on the, show me that debt. Show me that loan form. Show me the bill. It's not a debt. Technically, we don't even know it at all. What if the judge were to come back and say, you know what? I think that the county was right all along. And they set the mill levy there. I doubt that's right. Pretty sure it won't be. But it's a possibility, and that's why you can't tax people on unknowns. But they did. They sent us out a sheet and explained to us how much the tax was going to be and for what purpose, and then didn't do that at all. They say, well, it was lower. It wasn't lower on everything else. They said 4.868 on everything else, but no, it's much higher than that. The whole system, plus their own resolution that they passed is flawed. Yeah, what they told you they were doing and the year that they told you it was doing for and what it was for, the tax year, it wasn't. It's for the budget year 26. They didn't word that right. That's flawed. You weren't told the truth about that. The tax year 26, we're in the tax year 25. Their own numbers will tell you that. Their own revenue neutral sheet tells you that. They're taxing you this year, right? And you pay it this year, right? That's not what their resolution says. They're off in so many different ways. And we have to seek relief from BOTA because these guys weren't willing to do anything about it. We couldn't get local officials to take note of some of these flaws. So you have to go to the Board of Tax Appeals. That's what the law tells you to do. And so that's what was done. And I hope that we can at least give some relief for that massive tax increase. But that won't change anything with this level of spending that they keep spending down the surplus till it's going to be gone. It's going to be gone. Then what? Then how do you pay for government? Going to have to pay more taxes, 10.4 mills I've got just to get to zero because they won't cut anything. If their position is we will not cut anything, and remember they told you they cut 2 million out of benefits and yet put 1.5 million more into benefits this year, and they're claiming that was a cut. Think if they were to give everyone the money that they asked for, where would it be? How much your taxes would have gone up. So, this is the condition that the county finances are in. This right here. Responsible leadership from 2019 until those commissioners and past groups built up a 7.48 and handed it over to the new guys. Here you go. 7.4 million in the bank. You guys, you're in good shape. Keep it going. Oh, well, we spent 2.5 million more. Oh, well, we spent another 2.67 million more. Down $5 million in 2 years. And their current budget has it gone down to $80,000 by the beginning of 2027. Their plan. That's your money. It's gone. It's going to be gone completely about when anyone else comes in to try to rescue this thing, and they're going to have very little to no cushion at all to try to do anything. And they'll be looking, trying to make them look like the bad guys, because these guys completely erased any money in the bank. Do they even know it? I'd love to ask them that question, but they won't answer. They don't have to answer. Why do they have to answer to you? When Todd Stanton tried to bring up some of these issues, he was questioned, why are you even here? We're supposed to be a team. In other words, Tammy didn't want to take the heat by herself. She wanted some other people to take the heat with her. Let's blame everybody. Don't blame just me. Don't blame just Scott. Don't blame just Tammy or Persephone. We want all 5 of us to take the... No, Steve was smart enough and Todd was smart enough not to vote for this deficit spending stuff. Todd has said publicly that the budgeting process, this is not a good budgeting process. And I think you look at these numbers and you can say there's something wrong with it. You tell me that's a good budgeting process? To spend money that you didn't bring in, that you're going to eat up your reserves, and then say, well, that means we just aren't taxing enough. No, you're just spending too much. You're just spending too much. We're going to try to keep you informed and bringing it to you, and hopefully, cooler heads will prevail, get some people. And tell me this doesn't make an argument for a CFO. But what did Scott tell you? Scott said, if you want to know why we don't have a CFO, just ask the opinion of the board. That's why we don't have a CFO. In other words, there's not 3 in favor of having a CFO. The only one I know for sure who is Todd. He campaigned on it. He said, we need a CFO. You elected him in his district. He said, hey, that's a good idea. This guy's got some good ideas. And how has he been treated on this commission? Like some sort of outsider, like an alien almost. I mean, he has been chided. He'd been chided for trying to talk to, at that time, their council to get some information to find out, what we're doing or how we're doing it. And so he's informed about how to make decisions. And they told him, it's cost us money to talk to our counselor. You really want to look at a chart like this and you're worried about talking to legal counsel about getting some advice, maybe how we're doing things, when you're blowing through millions of dollars like that? Really? I think you ought to be getting a lot more advice. This is what happens when you don't get advice, when you try to do it on your own, when you don't listen to the public. Look at that. Look at how hard that was, by the way, climbing that hill. Little by little, add a stone, climb up the hill, push harder, get up through the top. Look at that. Wow. How easy it is for that to just completely erode. What took 6 years to build is going to be gone in half that time. Gone in half that time. We're already going to be back to 2026. At the beginning of 2026, we're going to be where we were at the beginning of 2019. So they built it up in 6 years, and in 2 years have completely lost everything that those commissioners worked for. So David's asking, what happens when the money runs out? Well, here's what they can't do, David. You can't go get a loan. The only way you get loans on a budget at a county level is, if you're doing equipment or buying piece of ground or, some sort of hard asset like that. You don't get loans for operational costs at a county. You don't get, you can't say, well, this was an unexpected, we need a no-fund warrant. No, that's not what a no-fund warrant is for. So what's going to happen is you don't meet payroll, or that money that's in the bank that's supposed to pay for if you have to shut down a cell at the landfill, you start eating into those, but those are what they call encumbered funds. That money may be in the bank, but it's for a purpose. You're not supposed to touch that. You certainly can't touch the highway money because a lot of that is state money put aside to work with the state on projects. So what's left? The areas that they say they don't want to touch. That's what. So it's either going to happen by force of just saying, we can't pay it. We can't make payroll. That's the option. Do you want it? Is that where this leadership is taking us? Oh, we're doing all this for the employees, doing all this for employees. Well, what happens when you say, hey guys, we can't write checks this week? And they're trying to use a scare tactic of layoffs and this. Well, look, you're going to end up there if you don't do something differently. And it's not through massive tax increases. That last number is with their massive tax increase. And if that doesn't hold, then that's going to mean they're going to have to make cuts if they lose that massive, almost $4 million, if you want to look at it that way, tax increase they just passed on you. If they have to refund that $80,000 is going to happen next year. So that's what, Dave. That's the only thing I can figure. You say, maybe buy a calculator. That might help. But it would help to have someone like a CFO that knows how to operate the calculator, that can look at the numbers, that can see where this stuff is going and present a proper budget on how you provide the best services you can, but without completely going broke. You ask, what happens with the hospital? Well, the hospital has some reserves. My understanding is they're burning through those as well. So if the hospital budget burns up its reserves, then guess what? It's a county-owned hospital. But you saw the hospital budget, right? You did see that? No, you didn't. Because even though it's part of the county, they are not presenting the numbers of the Southwest Medical Center budget of a publicly owned hospital. Publicly owned, which means you own that hospital. If you're a Seward County resident, you're a stakeholder in that hospital. Now, haven't had to pay for it up till now, but that could change. And then what? Are you going to be willing to say after all of this, it's time to put some mill levy to support the hospital? Are you willing to do that? Because if the hospital reserves go to nothing, they're either going to have to cut services, sell it, or you're going to have to put taxes into just having a local hospital. My understanding is their reserves are on the downward slide as well. Now, who oversees that? Who's supposed to? Well, the county appoints the board members, but the county is supposed to be overseeing that hospital. It's a county-owned hospital. How do you own something and then have no control over it? Does that make any sense to you whatsoever? I don't know how we operate some of this stuff around here with the way that we address it. But it's a county-owned hospital. The county is responsible for the operation of that hospital. Every now and then you do see the administrator come and give a report to the county, but where's the numbers? Why isn't that part of the budget? Where's the Southwest Medical Center department? The health department's on there. Where's the Southwest Medical Center budget? Why isn't that ever made public? It's a public hospital. Dave, we got issues. We got to deal with these things one at a time, unfortunately. And right now, the effort is to try to protect the taxpayers from that chart and from mishandling the R&R hearing and from miscommunicating with you, the public. I mean, we're trying, and that effort is still alive, and we're going to keep moving forward with it because you have to have it. You have to have BOTA recognize the problems that have happened here, and they're going to have to take action. I have no doubt that they will. I mean, the number of administrative errors in this deal, the way they communicated with you and told you what the money was going to be for and whether it could be for that, and then how they really used it and where it really went, very different. Very, very different. So we're going to keep it all out on the front for you. I don't want to leave you today without giving you your squeaky clean car wash weather report. Today's going to be sunny with a high near 60. South-south wind 6 to 11 miles per hour. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 34. South-southeast wind 7 to 10 miles per hour, becoming west-southwest after midnight. Looking ahead to the rest of your week, tomorrow, Veterans Day, a high of 75. Wednesday, 69. Thursday, 71. Friday, 77. Saturday, 62. Let's see, Sunday, 54. So the weekend will cool down, but what a nice week we're going to have this week. And that's the news and views you can use on the high plains. Monday, November 10th, 2025. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning. Until then, this is Earl, the Leader in Time, saying when you live in Liberal, there's no place like home. Have a great day, everybody.